Jim, welcome. What amazing story and an amazing business that you have created. And also, I always say that running business is not easy because, you know, anybody that runs the business, including yourself, you're responsible for a lot of people, which ultimately results you're responsible for a lot of their families. And doesn't matter how economy is going over past 50 years, us as a business owners are still responsible for making sure the ship keeps going. Doesn't matter what economy is doing. So Jim, from where you are now, do you ever look back and think to yourself that, wow, this has grown to something big, and Jim, you have done well? Do you ever tap yourself on the shoulder for 2 minutes and say, it's been a big, long journey, and here we are?
I probably spend more time, Kezia, thinking about the things we should do better. To the extent that not every franchisee succeeds. Not every client gets fantastic service.
Yes.
I tend to more look forward and say, how can we improve? We've had since prior to Jim's, we've had a 99% drop in complaint rates. We're dramatically better, but jeepers, we can be better still. And we're developing software and systems now that should have a even more effect.
So you're constantly focused more on not even reflecting on anything that has been done. Your focus is, what can we do better tomorrow?
Yes. I don't think you want to sit back just patting yourself on the back saying how good we are. We can do so much better.
Look, I think we can always be improving. Now, you have been in a business for a very long time, and you started your company from scratch. And I believe you started with $24, and correct me if I'm wrong. There's information that I found.
And deeply in debt. So not a good start.
Not a good start. When you look back over all the time, you constantly kept growing. I always say it's much easier when you create a small business and you want to keep it small. For example, you can start accounting business, have 2 accountants that you employ, and you only take enough work to keep yourself and 2 accountants busy. And the journey is kind of flat and it's easier to control and maintain, but you constantly kept growing. Why?
Well, I don't know. I don't know it's so easy to do the same thing, because to me, to do any job and not try to do it better is unimaginable. I mean, if I'm unpacking the dishwasher, if I can work out a better way to get my glass from the dishwasher to I'm going to do it. And so every day you think, how can I improve? It's not really the idea that you should run a business in a way and just keep on doing it the same way is just lunatic. I mean, the world's going to change apart from anything else, but how can you not want to do better?
Yes.
If you're an accountant, for example, okay, yes. How can I do it better? How can I do a more efficient job faster? How can I amaze my clients more? How can I give them extra value? And once you start doing that, you start getting more clients. You need to put on staff on. So you're going to work out, how can I find better staff? How can I help them, train them better, support them better? It's just a natural process. To me, that's every day. How can you improve?
Yes.
There's no end goal. There's just better.
One thing that I've been following your journey for a very long time. You are really heavily focused also on branding, because you have created brand from start. That was a lot easier for you to create other franchises in different fields because everybody knew your brand from start. So Jim Smowing, that's how it all started. Can you tell us exactly what other franchises exactly are out there?
You want me to name them? There's like 40 something.
So 40. So that's why I'm saying that your focus was so heavily focused on brand that, do you think once you create a very, very strong brand, it's a lot easier for you to keep?
Yeah, I never focused on the brand. I never thought, how can I make my brand go? I thought, how can I make my franchisees successful? That's your primary goal as a franchisor. What can you do to turn every franchisee into a success story? What more can you do? What different things can you do? I mean, we're working on this all the time. One of the things that's come at this week is an issue where we've got some new franchisees who are in situations where they're not making as much rent, haven't quite as many leads. So what we're doing is organizing a feedback system so that we jump on that. because we look after about 1,000 franchisees directly, and
Yes.
say, okay, what system can we have in place to notify us very quickly that they're not making the money as they should, and then put extra advertising into place? So
And
first
yeah,
of all,
obviously.
franchisees, and then
Yes.
to look after franchisees properly, you have to look after your clients really well. So how can we reduce complaints? What better training system can do? How can we coach franchisees better? How can we screen franchisees better? So you're always looking at, and if you do that kind of thing, if you look after your franchisees, which means you attract good people and keep good people,
Yes.
and then you look after clients really well, and your brand
Yes.
grows. But
Yes.
the brand is not the put, it's the people that matter.
Yes. But at the end of the day, also exactly what you said, putting your franchisees first and getting a good people and them delivering good results to the end customer, ultimately they are building good brand as well,
Yes,
because you can have a terrible
ultimately you do,
people.
and ultimately you make a whole lot of money, but it's never the first thing you think about.
Yes.
Brand is never the first thing, nor is the money. It's always the people, particularly my
Yes.
franchisees.
Yes. And at the
So it's
moment,
where your focus is. And I don't agree with companies,
yes.
philosophy of companies that say my first obligation is to the bottom line, to the shareholders for a public company. I don't think that way.
Yes.
If you do the things right by the people you're dealing with, people first, then the bottom line tends to look after itself to a large extent.
Yes. Which is very interesting what you just said. You have built a quite large business. Did you ever get tempted to go public?
I looked at it at one stage, but not a good idea. Um, Again, when you're a public company, you're chained to the shareholders, and I don't make short-term decisions. We do all kinds of things that aren't good financially short-term. You make all
Yes.
kinds of decisions, like every day. What's the right thing to do? What's the best thing for the people that we're concerned with? I don't
And
want
it's
to
a,
be. I don't want to be having analysts looking at my next quarter's earnings.
which is
Apart from,
very,
and Viv's isn't that big a company. It's very prominent, but you're talking about people who are we don't make that much money. We only take about a 6% on average. Our fees are about 6%. They're not calculated that way,
yes, yes.
and most of that goes in costs. So we're a well-known company. As I say to people, I'm a lot more famous than I'm rich.
Yeah.
I never put the money first.
And maybe that's why also your business has grown as well, over time, because you put people first. And once you constantly keep putting people first as well, then obviously, they keep staying with you for a very long time instead of keep jumping the ship. Specifically when it comes to I have 10 offices, not 1,000. And but over 7 years, even my 10 real estate offices, we have built a franchise model, and all of our guys are staying with us and renewing their franchise after 5 years now.
Yes.
But in a lot of industries, you see that people are constantly jumping ship. So in any franchise, is always people see it as a challenge how to keep people to stay with you, after 5 years, if there's the agreement that you have with them. And only way you can keep them to stay with you if you're also offering them a value as a company. Otherwise, if you give people just your name behind you and not be there for them, specifically when times that we are living in are changing constantly, and if we don't change with time, we're going to be stay behind, specifically in real estate industry as well, because marketing is so crucial. The way we market anything 20 years ago or 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and today is completely different. And so putting people first and offering them value is the only way you can stay.
We don't even lock our franchisees into the term of their contract. If somebody wants to go independent, they just pay a small fee, $4,000 or $5,000, and go off and run their own business with their own branding. It does happen
Yes.
sometimes too. Not
Yeah, of
most,
course.
but they can. If people don't see the value in what we're providing for them, in the
What's the
brand,
point?
the leads, and in the training, and the resources, and the buying group, then go off and do your own thing. We're
Was
going to try and persuade you that we can do enough for you that you want to stay with us. That's the idea.
Yes. And what's the point of working with somebody if they don't want to work with you?
No. No. See, the greatest lesson, the greatest weapon we've got selling a franchise is a list of current franchisees. So
Yes.
with the list people we've got, bring them, bring all of them, bring any of them, bring all of them, and
Yes.
the better the operator, the more likely they are to ring more people. And if the response they get is, well, I only stay because I have to because I'm locked in by contract. What does that say? But then if
100%.
somebody leaves, if they said, quite often they'll say, well, look, Jim's was great. They built me out business. I got to the stage where I had all the regular clients I wanted, satisfied, didn't need the brand anymore, gone independent, but they can still be an advocate for us.
Absolutely. And they can still help you get more people in the future as well.
Yeah.
Building business.
The people have come in to gyms because they were recommended by somebody who's left.
Yes. Building your business over 40 years, what would you say is the biggest challenge growing your business?
Finding good people. Finding good staff is probably my number one challenge. It's just not something I'm particularly good at. I made some terrible mistakes.
Yeah.
I've also done a lot of dumb things like going into business that we understand, like trade exchange, factory, all kinds of stuff. So, well, I've got pretty good staff, but I could do with better. We're looking for some really hot shot managers right now. People who've got that enterprise and that drive. We just don't have enough people like that.
Yes.
We tend to recruit from the bottom line, often from the call center and from franchisees sometimes. But to a certain extent, we do lack people at the top end, I must say. It's been a challenge for us.
Would you say that people's work ethic has changed from 20 years ago or 30 years ago to today?
Well, not amongst our franchisees, but we get a lot of new immigrants who tend to have a fantastic work ethic. They might struggle with English, but they know how to work hard. And I think we get the best of the Australians too. Those who don't mind going out there having a go, getting their hands dirty, because usually they're manual jobs. Just enterprise side. I would not say the quality of our franchisees has dropped.
But in general, would you say that?
Oh, I think we're becoming weaker and softer. I mean, one of the stupidest things about it, I know, is people have this obsession with these tertiary education, and I got a PhD in history of all stupid things, but people are so obsessed with education. You want to do all these courses and sit down and sit at the desk and be a lawyer or an accountant or a financial advisor or something. The opportunities in the service industry are, to my mind, phenomenally greater. But young people in wealthy countries don't tend to want to work with their hands. I don't know why. Because our average franchisee makes well above the Australian average wage, and they've got a better lifestyle too, with less traveling and flexibility and stuff, and tax benefits and stuff, being self-employed. So, but there's a prejudice against manual work, which I remember. I enjoy it actually. I wouldn't go at the weekend. I go and work at my farm and cut blackberries and dig and stuff. I've got calloused hands. I enjoy that kind of stuff. Always did.
I find it relaxing, Amma. I got few development sites that are very close to my office. And I remember when I started on tools, 18, 19, and 20 years old, when I was working on tools, I remember, my dad was working with me and my brother, because obviously we were just hungry to work, I guess. We would be on a job sites, 5:30, 6 a.m. and we would work literally till 6 p.m. till we pass out from being tired and on physical work. And but at the time, 25, 26 years ago, I remember, all the bricklayers and concreters, there was so many people working till 5 o'clock. It wasn't unusual. Now, all my development sites that are 5 minutes away from my office, if I go to any of them past 3 o'clock, I can't see anybody. Which is different, and I'm not saying they're lazier or they're making more money, whatever it is. I think there's not many 20-year-olds these days that want to become a bricklayer. They want to become a concreter.
That's right. They don't want to become a plumber. And these are good professions, and they pay very well, and very good opportunities to have your own business too, which is much harder if you're in most. So I don't know why. I think wealthy societies tend to become slack and not necessarily lazy, because white collar workers tend to work long hours, but people ignore the opportunities in physical manual work. And it's not just a matter of opportunity, it's a matter of lifestyle and happiness too. The studies they've done have indicated the happiest people tend to be people who work manually, like construction workers and gardens and so forth. And they do streets ahead of people like lawyers. And it's not the way society manages it. One of our top people actually was he was a high school dropout. He dropped out of school like at the age of 15, the first he possibly could. went and worked for McDonald's for a while, got a franchise with us a few years ago. Then became successful, turning over close to $1 million a year.
Yes.
Sold that. Now one of our top franchisors. This guy's still in his 20s.
Yes. But he's not afraid of hard work.
No, he's a hardworking guy. At every level, he's a hardworking guy. He's a fine young man, Dan. So
I think talent without hard work doesn't mean much.
No. People overestimate the value of intelligence. I'll tell you something. They think if you're smart, you're naturally going to be successful. Let me tell you that the best estimate, it contributes about 4% towards success. The vast majority is work ethic, hard work,
yes,
enterprise, willingness to learn, willingness to work with people, just character. Character is everything.
If somebody's starting any business today, 20 years old, what would you tell them is waiting ahead of them next 50 years?
Anything. The difference is really, do you look at what you do every day and say, how can I do this better? See, when I mowed lawns for about 15 years, I wasn't a fast starter. I really wasn't.
Yes.
15 years of mowing lawn as a student and my own business full time after that. But every day I was out there, I was thinking, how can I empty the grass catcher with one step less? What's the best way to do it? How can I turn my mower most efficiently? How can I save a half second going in a tree? How can I save time going between jobs? How can I turn over a garden bed to get the best result and the quickest thing? How do I amaze my clients? How do I cut my time? How do I cut my costs? Just constantly thinking about that. And you start off an impoverished, debt-ridden uni student,
yes,
and you create anything. And that's the great thing about business. There's nobody above you. Like if I was out there in the workforce now trying to get a job, people would say, "Oh, you're old geezer. You're 71 years old. You're clearly past it. Go away, grandpa."
yes.
I want some young hotshot with a master's in 27 years old. But I don't have to worry about that because I'm in charge. It's my business.
Yes,
That's the great thing about it.
You can do it up. But interesting thing is, other day, one of the guys that I watch his videos quite often, Dana White, the president of UFC. And interesting thing that he said, a lot of people would say, start your own business so you can have your own hours and you can have a life. And the fact is, when you are starting your business journey, you don't set your hours because you got no hours. You're working a lot harder. There's no such a thing as a long holidays when you start off your journey, when you're starting to build it up. And but advantage you have is you are in control of your own journey as well, and you can shape it how you want to shape it as well.
Possibly slightly different in a franchise system. In fact, the more common story that I hear is that somebody's getting very similar money to their previous job, but they've got a better lifestyle.
But with franchise model, you already set the road for them, which is much easier.
We've got everything in place. You basically, you've got screening, you've got training process, you've got your leads coming through, you've got your meetings, you've got your mentor, your coach, your franchisor. So it's all there. It's look, one of the most characteristic stories, one of the most moving stories I hit when I ran one of my 10-year franchisees. I ring them when they've been going 10 years or 20 years on the big anniversaries. And this guy told me, and I said, "What were you doing?" And he said, "I was an IGA manager." And I said, "What happened?" He said, "One day I was leaving for work very early in the morning because they worked very long hours. And my 4-year-old son said to me, 'Daddy, I wish you could have breakfast with us.'"
Yes.
He said he drove to work, tears streaming down his face, quit his job, bought a mowing franchise, and he's had breakfast with his kids and he's seen them growing up. And his son's now 40. I said, "Do you ever thank your son for that comment?" He said, "Every day." Now, it's not that he's making so much more money.
Yes.
This guy
wants
to see his son, his children grow up, and that's been more important to him. We've probably created more millionaires than any company in the country, I believe, because so many of our franchisees do very, very well, like the guy Dan I was telling you about before. But it's actually rather more common for people to buy a franchise for the sake of lifestyle.
Yes.
Because there's things like, people think that if you have a fancy car and a big house and stuff, you'll be happy. Actually, there's not much to do with it, really. Past about average Australian wage, which is a lot less than most of our franchisees make. It doesn't make much difference. But things like commuting makes a huge difference. You're traveling an hour to work. That's like equivalent to a $75,000 cut in salary. Honestly, this is the studies they've done on this.
Yes.
Things like working outside, things like flexibility, time with your family, good family relationship with friends, lifestyle. So, I mean, you and I are both ambitious people, obviously, and we see it
yes.
differently. And obviously, I always want to create a great business, but it's not the only goal.
I always say that my day starts when I wake up in the morning, and I always wake up at 4 o'clock for past 20 years, regardless if I'm tired or not tired. I just wake up like a bloody clock. I always start my day by being grateful, and being grateful that one, I woke up, I'm breathing, and I'm being grateful that I'm healthy, and I'm being grateful that I have a good family around me, and then my day starts. And I'm so conscious that today is the day that I never lived before. And when this day is over, I'm one day closer to my ultimate destination, which is me being 9 foot under. And so with me, I always like to use my time wisely and be happy individual with anything that I'm doing. Money or bigger homes or cars, that is just a bonus if you like that stuff, if you're a happy individual. But if you're a miserable person, if you're unhappy with life in general, nothing can help you. No money in the world.
That's right.
How many hours do
people who are very miserable?
which is very sad.
Yeah, a guy I know, who's the brother of a very close friend of mine, committed suicide a few years back. He was an immensely wealthy man, much richer than I am, and just stuffed up family, stuffed up personal life, killed himself. What's the point? Money itself is limited value. There's got to be a purpose in what you're doing.
Question I have for you. You don't have to do interviews like this, and you constantly keep putting yourself out there, keep passing your knowledge to others, where you don't have to. You can be having your breakfast in your farm and not talk to people like me and not let anybody hear your stories. Why do you keep giving your knowledge to others?
I'm not that altruistic about it. I don't mind helping people. In fact, I'm very happy to. But the fact of the matter is, talking to you is very good value for me. I'm going to spend an hour on the phone. People will listen to this. You never know.
Yes.
2 or 3 of your people watching may decide to buy a franchise as a result of it. That's a very good hour's work for me.
I tell you an interesting story. I have created a small franchising, a real estate company. We only sell $2 billion a year, which I think is small compared to, company that you have created. And with me, it's almost like, you know what? I'm glad that I'm not sitting in this interview in person, because I reckon within an hour, I would be rebranding to Jim's Real Estate. So this is much better and safer for me.
Well, it's dangerous, actually. We do have a good track record. I mean, you can look at the statistics. You want to go into a service business like cleaning or gardening, and look it up online. It's all with your chance of being in business after the first year is between 5 and 10%. What's our chance? 88%. I'd love to say it's 100%, but 88% of franchise people are still franchised. They haven't gone independent. They haven't failed. They haven't decided, they're still with us. That's what we do. But also, when you're talking about a new business, like a new division, like we start new divisions all the time. We're about to launch Jim's Beauty, and looking at Jim's vending machines. There's a few businesses. Now, not all of our businesses succeed, but most of them actually do. So we've, for example, got somebody came to us with the idea of building inspections. It's now the biggest building inspections company in the country. Somebody came to us with working for a competitor, Mr. Antennas came to us, started Jim's Antennas, now the biggest antennas company in the country. So we've got a structure that allows people to come in with a new idea and a system and make it work. Mostly, obviously, much earlier than where you are in business. You're already quite successful. But if you want to start a new business entirely and you want to dominate the industry, we're a great place to go.
Well, look, to be honest, the most businesses, when they do start, they don't have structures, they don't have processes. They obviously definitely don't have any kind of brand because they're just starting up. And I always say, a lot of people are comparing starting your own brand and taking franchise on. Everything comes down to what you want to, what's your life goal, and my plans in my business is not 2 years short. I'm thinking 100 years ahead. And but franchise models, they just save your time straight away, and you are in the business from day one, not building the business. I mean, you're always going to be building the business, but if you don't know, if you don't have any systems, processes, and branding and leads, you are so behind till you get to this place where you are.
Branding is very powerful too. Some years ago, we did a survey in Adelaide about glazing companies. And
Yes.
there was a couple of local ones. And then there was O'Brien's Glass, which, as you know, is by far the biggest in the country. And then there
Yes.
was Jim's
Yes.
Glass. And we asked people who they prefer. Now, not surprisingly, O'Brien's did better than the locals. People were more likely to
Yes.
call them because they knew the name. But by far, the most popular that people, what they said, used was Jim's Glass, which didn't even exist. We were just doing so before you started your business, you've already got the best known brand in the country for what you're actually doing.
Which makes it
So
a lot
that is a
easier.
plus. That's one of the reasons we focus so heavily on Australia and New Zealand, because the brand is so strong here rather than going overseas, because it's much easier to start a new division
Yes.
in Australia or New Zealand than it is to start one in the US, for example, to start anything in the US because the brand isn't known.
Jim, do you have family members that are working with you today?
Not really. But basically, pretty well all my kids have worked at some time in the business, but I don't have anybody
Yes.
at the moment.
Yes.
I'm not an
Which,
easy person to work with.
yes.
uh,
Something interesting that I have just learned of lately, that oldest company in Japan is 500 years old. I had no idea about this. Japan does have over 50,000 businesses that are over 100 years old, which is phenomenal.
I think you'll find there's businesses in Japan that are over 1,000 years old. There's a few, and they go through
Well,
the family line.
there you go. There you go. Which is really interesting. I feel like you should almost be living in Japan, because you have created company over last, it's been over 40 years now. In with young generation these days, and I constantly see it all the time, and I feel like I'm much older than a lot of new generations because I'm 44. But with young generation, they start something, becomes a little bit hard, they give up. They get distracted, start something else. I'm assuming in your 40 years business journey, it wasn't always easy, but you were always thinking long term and you always kept pushing through, I'm guessing. Why? How can any young individual that is facing any problems, how can they mentally get over that hurdle and keep moving forward?
Motivation is a difficult thing. I mean, obviously, you've got to have a certain amount of ambition behind you. But as to how a person becomes motivated, I think a lot of it's to do with lifestyle. I think it's to do with sense of purpose. You've got to my mind, you've got to believe in what you're doing to some extent, that you're doing something valuable. But that's a personal motivation. Some people are driven by the desire for money. But I think also things like health and stuff make a lot of difference. Like, for example, exercise, keeping fit. One of the things when I
Yes.
got up this morning, I went out and did weightlifting and ran for a half hour on a treadmill.
Yes.
And during the day, I'll do a lot of walking and so forth too, all around the place. It's just my natural
Yes.
life. So I'm physically very active, and I'll be up at my farm clearing blackberries at the weekend, and there'll be quite a few more hours doing that. So
Yes.
it's spending time outside, keeping yourself psychologically healthy is very important. I don't think people should live to work. I think work should be something that you love doing. It's part of a great lifestyle. And I certainly would never want to retire because I love what I do. But there's
Yes.
got to be a purpose behind it.
I think every person, every employee that I ever have, always give them this little lecture when I meet them. I always say it's very important that you're passionate about things that you're doing, because work, in my mind, is 80% of your life while you are alive, while you are awake. Because when you're sleeping, in my mind, you kind of don't exist, right? So most people, when they wake up in the morning, they're getting ready to go to work. Then they're driving to work, whatever it takes them. Then they work all day. Then they're driving from work home, and they get home 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then they're awake for 2, 3 hours, and then they are passed out again because they're sleeping. So while you are awake, you really want to waste 80% of your life. So might as well give it all, do something that you're passionate about, do something that you love. Otherwise, if you're going to be one of those people that as soon as they come to work, they are looking at the watch when it's going to be 5 o'clock, you're wasting huge part of your life that you're never going to get back. What is the point?
Yes, though I don't necessarily agree that work should take over your life to that extent.
But if you love it, then it's not work.
But one of the statements I most believe in is a very wise man once said, "No other success can compensate for failure in the home."
Yes.
What do you do with your family? How many kids have you got? Can I ask that?
I got we couldn't have kids. I got no kids for different reasons. Not because I love kids. Trust me.
Well, that's sad.
But that's okay. We are okay. I never beat myself up with situations that I can't change. Right. Some stuff, if you can make changes, great. But we are happy because I have amazing nephew, nieces. I employ a lot of great people. So to us, life is beautiful. We don't beat ourselves up. But I always say that that's another thing that in Japan, one of the reasons they keep companies for 100 years because they want their kids to work in the businesses, so they see them more often and so on, which is interesting.
I think eventually some of my children will. I've got a couple of potential sons-in-law too that I think will be very, very good in the business. Very impressive young men. So
how many kids do you have?
10.
Jim, you got 10 kids.
Yeah, that's all right. Doesn't everybody? Normal, I think.
I think, Jim, I think me and you can do the deal. I got no kids, you got 10. Even if you give me 3, you won't know the difference whatsoever.
Oh, I can't spare any of mine. I love them all.
Jim, I'm gonna steal 3 kids from you. You won't even know the difference. You got him.
Hang on a bit. Just not all by the same wife.
That's okay.
Staying married, women can't stand me after a while. Though I've been quite well married for the last 20 years, quite happily. But
so that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I will, which is interesting. Listen to this. I got no kids. My grandma had 12 kids. Mm-hmm. My dad's grandma had 22 kids.
That was a hardworking woman. That's a lot of kids.
To the same husband.
Yes, that's impressive.
And she died at age 47, which is fascinating. So the family is so huge, and my brother is expecting 4th kid now, and he's 4.5. He's younger than me. So I come from a massive, massive family. And I remember in 1986, I will never forget, I was only 7 years old. And for some crazy reason, Jim, I remember stuff that I did 40 years ago, more than what I had for breakfast yesterday. And in 1986, I remember there was a picture taken. My grandfather, who passed away that same year, he was sitting and family cooked pig on the spit, and all uncle and aunties that were there, and all of their husbands, and all of the kids. There's like freaking 50, 60 people in the picture at that time. And it was amazing to see. And I will never forget that big families. Jim, do you talk of travel? Do you live far away from your business?
Next door. I walk to work. After I finish this interview, I'm going to walk across. It'll take me 5 minutes to get into my office. So, nice bush track. See, commuting is not a positive thing. I don't like to commute.
Same thing. We are building a house now, literally 1.2 kilometers away from our office. So when you
and you should walk to work or cycle to work too. Don't get the car.
Don't get the car. You know what?
No, I don't say don't have a car. I said don't use the car to go to work. You should walk and enjoy yourself. And even if it's at night and even if it's raining, walking is great.
I got a few little dogs, and that's one thing that I do every morning and every night as well. I think that any kind of exercise is good for us to clean our heads as well. Because
what exercise do you get? What do you do apart from walking your dogs?
Well, I'm guilty of I have a lot of cars, Jim, and when we lived in one house, we only had 2 garages, and I love a lot of cars. So I convinced myself that I need to buy a warehouse so I can put all my cars in it. And then what I have done, I built a full commercial gym for myself to go and exercise in. So,
but how often do you use it? How much time do you spend on it?
I exercise right now. I have to be honest. I'm not gonna say that I exercise a lot. I probably exercise twice a week. But my exercise would be, I would literally go and be really intense. I'm a big in rowing and running as well. And I normally run about 4:30 in the morning for half an hour alone. Then I walk my dogs, and that's almost every day.
So half an hour running every morning. That's great. That's a good
Yeah,
start.
well, that's running, but I would use my gym once, twice a week. But I definitely run every day. I need to do
Oh,
that for myself, for my own sanity as well. I feel like, fresh
it's good.
air.
It's
And
good for health. It's good for
yes,
energy. It's good for happiness. Exercise is huge. There's so
yes,
many people my age who are just geriatric. They're slow. Their minds are slow. They lose their passion. They lose their drive. They lose
yes.
so much. I don't want to be like that. I may be 71, but I'm not old. I look
You
old, but I
no,
don't feel it.
you don't look old, and and interesting. You are still so passionate as an
Mm.
individual. You talk
Yes.
about your business. I got a feeling you talk about it now the same way you talked about it 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, I love my business. It's a great business. I can help people every day. I'm helping people,
Yes,
trying to work out how to do better. Every one of my franchisees, 5,000 plus, has my direct phone number and email address, and they use it. So I'm
yes,
always getting calls, people are ringing me, or people are emailing me, say, "What can I do about this?" And very often I can help them. Sometimes I can help them by saying, "Hey, you need to do this. You got a problem.
yes,
Do that area, work in this area, do this kind of do more self-marketing, or talk to your franchisor, or often I go to meetings or whatever it happens to be." But
yes,
sometimes there's a problem with the system, and then I look at it and I say, "How can I help you?"
yes,
Okay, what can I do to improve the system to help other people? So
yes,
that's a moral purpose. It's a meaningful life. And I've also
yes,
got a research project which I'm funding. The great majority of my profits actually go into a research foundation, which is looking at ways of helping to overcome problems like addiction, which is based on my PhD research. I'm
yes,
interested in that. And I'm also very interested in ideas. I read or listen to, on average, a couple of job books a week. I'm always
yes,
finding out more things.
yes,
I love learning. I love new ideas.
yes.
It's very,
And
my
it's good.
full.
You remind me, and you're a much younger version than him. You remind me a lot of Warren Buffett and his right hand man Charlie.
Charlie
You're
Munger, yeah.
Actually, Charlie Munger is probably my favorite businessman of all time because he doesn't say much, but whatever he says is to the point, and that's it. But interesting thing is, they are you're very young compared to two of them because
Well,
I'm
they're in the 90s now. But
Charlie Munger is 98,
yeah,
fully active at work, and Warren Buffett I think just hit 93 as well. And an interesting thing is they're much older than you, but they are still passionate.
yeah.
There's a
Well, one thing I remember reading about Buffett is that he would actually be running through the town in a business suit, which you hardly
yes,
ever see. But that's something I do. Which
yes,
we haven't
yes,
got much in common apart from that. But
yes,
he's very physically active. He's got a racquetball court in his house. I'm getting a racquetball court to my office next door for
yes,
staff and for our conference center visitors. So you've got to be active, and that's a huge part of staying young. Interesting thing,
yes,
there's a book called, which I can't even find now, but I had it before, I lent it to somebody, called Buffett CEOs. And
yes,
in the early days, what Buffett used to do was to buy private companies with the management intact. And
yes,
they keep on, he'd pay them the money, but they keep on running it. That's what he wanted. He wanted them with the
yes,
manager. Now, the interesting thing about these people was that most of them, the great majority, were over retirement age. They were over 65. And one of the best was over 100.
yes,
So, so this whole idea that once you reach 65, you're suddenly a geriatric has-been, I think is a
no.
really bad idea. It depends so much on yourself, your exercise, how you live, how you look after yourself.
And also clearly you're very passionate about things that you do, and I think what keeps me going every day is, one, I love life. I love life, and I put such a value on my time, and I love creating things, and I love doing things that I'm so passionate about. As much as we say, we are going to work, I truly at this stage of my life, I don't see it as a work. Maybe every day. Somebody sent me a text last night and they said, "Did anybody ever tell you you're a workaholic?" I, to this day, I work till 9 o'clock. And I've been doing this for the last 20 odd years. And I'm so passionate about giving it all. And that's not just 1 year thing or exciting and I'm starting new business. I've been doing my own thing since I was 18 years old and I'm 44. But the passion is so crazy there that just drives me to keep improving and for me to keep learning and creating. And I don't do anything for the money. Money just comes because when you become expert in your field and when you enjoy it, it comes as well. How often do you come to Brisbane?
Never. I hate travel. I detest travel. To me, even to go into Melbourne City is a long and unpleasant trek, which I avoid as much as possible.
I was gonna say, next time you come to Brisbane, I will steal you so we can have lunch. But looks like we're gonna end up having it in Melbourne
You
or
come
your
down
place.
and you can be my guest, and we'll go out and we'll go and have a local pizza or Indian meal at a local restaurant. That's the extent of it. I don't find travel really. I don't enjoy travel. I hate
Yes,
airplanes. I just hate that movement. But I also
yes,
find that being in one place with electronic communication, you're actually more
yes,
accessible. Like a
yes.
franchisee can contact me anytime.
Oh,
Even weekends and stuff, and after hours, and I'm always available.
yes,
Even on my phone, I've got my phone with me. Somebody can ring me up and talk to me. They can send me an email. I'm very, very contactable. I find that I actually have more contact with people by electronically. Like this talk, for example. I mean, I don't know
yes.
what your listening audience is, but I imagine it'll be a few people.
A
I'm
hundred percent,
now,
100%.
now, if I was going to go out and give talks, I could fly up to Brisbane and give a talk, and maybe
Yes,
200 or 300 people would come and listen to me. But
yes.
you've got a lot better audience than that, I'm quite
Oh,
sure.
this is gonna be listened to well over 100,000 people, and
There
there's
you
no
are. You
there's
see? Can
no
you see?
there's.
Can you see the benefit?
I mean,
I'd have to go to Brisbane and all 50 times to actually get the same audience as you're giving me now. So
and and
how
and
good a deal is
you
that?
and you would lose 3 months out of your life flying to Brisbane every
I
single
would
day.
too. So I don't think you need to travel. I think you can do so much. And my biggest, most common journey is to go up my farm, which is half an hour.
What kind of farm do you have?
It's it's 250 acres. It was originally run to cattle, nothing but we're turning it into an organic food forest, planting a lot of trees, mostly nut trees and so forth.
Oh,
No
beautiful.
chemicals, nothing. That's why I'm clearing blackberries by hand because we don't like to use Roundup.
Yes,
So we just it's very manual, totally organic, and in
yes,
the end it'll take a while. Um, we'll be able to produce hundreds of tons of food per acre.
yes. Oh, beautiful. But
Bringing back
yeah,
the wildlife and the birds and the insects and everything. It's a passion of mine. It's something that I love. I love my farm. I love
so
that
feel
lifestyle.
like that. Feel like that's your little hobby and you time when you go to your farm.
Yeah, but when I'm on my farm too, I'm thinking all the time too. I'm listening to talking books. It's not
Yes,
just doing the work. It's actually I'm learning and listening and thinking. A lot of thinking time.
yes,
I don't actually work incredibly long hours. I don't even know what I work exactly. Probably maybe 40 hours a week. I don't know. I don't think I work the same hours as you. One of my reasons is because I'm not very good at doing most things. I've
yes,
got
yes,
very good staff who are excellent at doing things like finance and
yes,
HR and all kinds of things, social media. They're much better than me. So I
yes,
basically tend to wander around, talk to people, find out what
yes,
you're doing, throw out ideas. I'm always coming up with ideas to do things. Talking to my franchisees.
yes,
What are they doing? What's happening? How
yes,
can we help you? What's gone wrong with the system? I spend a lot
yes,
of time just analyzing, not a lot of time spent doing.
yes.
Right?
I'm gonna ask you two last questions. And a lot of people, my one of my very good friend has asked me. He said to me, Emil. He asked me this. He said, Emil, what does never give up mean to you? So I'm asking you, Jim, what does never give up mean to you?
I I don't think I know what that means. I just can't imagine it giving up. See, to me, my life has a purpose. When I get up in the morning, I have a reason for being alive. I have my franchisees, and I feel very strong loyalty
Yes,
to them, which is why I got so upset when our premier shut down everybody, all the home service workers for 2 months for no reason back a couple of years back. It makes me very angry because
mm,
I identify with them. They're kind of my tribe, my people, my extended family. So I'm very dedicated to them. And I'm
yes,
dedicated to my own family, my children. They matter a lot to me. Tomorrow night, I'm going up to see my couple of my children and my little grandson who's just about to turn 1. So that's fun too. That's meaningful. and I have my research project, which I actually, you know, as I said, most of my actual personal income goes into that, which is something that has immense potential to help people. So I just don't know how you would give up when you've got that kind of purpose in your life, because it's so meaningful. It's enjoyable. I am a really fortunate, happy person. I don't need the glitz. I don't need the material possessions. You know, I need a purpose. And why would I give up? I love what I do. I don't want him to retire either. I really don't believe. I often say that I'll have a retirement ceremony one day, and I'll be the star of the retirement ceremony, and I'll be in a box. But that's my retirement. And when I'm dead, that's it.
And I think the way you're living now, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
For a long time. I've probably got at least another 20 years. And there was in last week's Economist, there was this series of articles about, you know, things about longevity. So my view of is, well, I could die tomorrow, could walk under a truck, who knows?
Yes.
I could live another 20 or so years. That's probably the most likely thing. Or I could live 1,000 years. Who knows?
Yes. I think there's not much difference between you and Charlie Munger. I reckon 98.
Well, he's got a lot more money than I have, I can assure you.
Jim, it's been very pleasure talking to you, and I'm very grateful that you gave us time of your day. And when I'm your way, I will find you, and I'm gonna hunt you down and take you for lunch, take you for pizza.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you'd be very welcome. I'm sure you go to Melbourne a lot more often than I go to Brisbane.
Thank you so much once again. I'm very grateful.
Okay. See you later.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.